It's October. Happy Halloween. It's Doodly Squatch coming in to do some fun recordings and share some drawings and stories. This one was actually a suggestion. I put out a thing on my Instagram and on here and asking for comments or suggestions of what I should draw. And I got this one from a buddy of mine, username Who is Andre, and he's Andre. So let's just jump into it. Here we go. So Andre's suggestion was a zombie baby bursting out of his mommy's tummy. So I wanted to do a superhero-like pose, like he's just, da 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 da, busting out, and it took a few goes figuring out the baby hands and all that, and my tasteful placement of the umbilical cord, that sort of thing. But this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed doing this, and it got me thinking about zombies and scary movies in general. But the idea of a zombie baby is not overly new. But kind of the examples of it have been interesting. The one that I remember the most from my childhood, I guess, was from the what's it called? Not The Walking Dead. Bum 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 bum. The Dawn of the Dead remake that came out in the 2000s. There was a scene with a zombie baby. One of the survivors hiding in the mall was pregnant, and she and her boy go off and hide somewhere because they're worried about everyone else, and she got bit or something like that, so she's dying, and then they eventually find him after the baby's been delivered, and he's like, "Don't you touch my baby," and it's just this this CGI glowing-eyed kind of scary baby thing. But that, it was very short-lived. It's like that scene, then it's over. Nothing really gets explored, nothing like that. And then it makes me think of, this movie has two titles, and I always mess it up. It was a Peter Jackson film. I think it was called Brain Dead or Dead Alive. Might have been both. Anywho, but there's a pretty infamous, undead sort of baby in that one. He's got puffy eyes and like big buck teeth, and in little striped pajamas, and he's more of, he's almost like Chucky, like he's trying to, he's actively trying to kill people, and and he's just really weird looking. The whole movie's insane. It's like the goriest movie you ever saw. Just never, I wouldn't watch the movie with any food in you. I don't know. But with this fella, he was going more along the lines of, in the Beetlejuice sequel, there's like a Beetlejuice baby, and I liked how he looked. He had a real fun design. But I wanted to stick with the idea of it, it being a newborn. So he's got the umbilical cord, he's got the gummy teeth, a little bit of sparse hair. Got me thinking about, so zombie baby, zombies don't age. So this zombie would remain this little baby, and being a zombie doesn't inherently make you strong or anything like that. It's more so, the thing about zombies is they don't feel. So you shoot a zombie, unless you're catching it in the head, it's not doing much. Or a zombie can just claw at you with its fingernails, and it doesn't feel pain. It doesn't feel, there's no real resistance, so it's just doing that. Whereas this guy, its nails would be soft from being newborn, and it would have gums, so it can't really gnaw at you. So the idea of him bursting out of a tummy would be kind of laughable. I don't know, but that's the joy about movies. You can suspend your disbelief a little. Another good example is in 28 years later. There is, they're not exactly zombies. They're people with the rage virus. So, but essentially they're zombies, and it's been 28 years, so they've, grown. There's been different generations of them, that sort of thing. And in the movie, there's a pregnant one, and she gives birth to a baby, but the baby's not infected. And the doctor that Rafe Fiennes plays, he's like, the magic of the placenta, showing that the infection didn't carry over from the mother to the baby. So that was kind of cool, a neat look into that. You always wonder about that, just the logistics behind those sorts of things. So and as far as like coloring this guy, I wanted to have, obviously the blood is bright colory, strawberry red, and we got some purple internal gunks on him, and I just love the look of this guy. He's just so funny. And when it comes to horror movies, usually in horror, like kids and babies are kind of off limits. They're not usually the ones getting ganked by the monster, that sort of thing. So it's been interesting, the few times I've seen it, at least in movies, where something like that happens and they kind of don't hold back, and it's, it makes it even more disturbing, I would say. Just because, you usually you're like, dogs and babies are safe in horror movies. But probably the earliest movie I can remember, just like kids in general getting ganked, was in the Blob remake that was in the like 90s, I think. But there's these two kids in a movie theater, and they're escaping through some sewers, and one of them gets sucked down by the blob, and he pops up all melted and horrifying, and that sort of stuff. And then, I think of in The Witch, there's a baby that gets, taken by this, witch, and it's, you don't see it happening, but the baby got, mushed up into some kind of, potion for the witch. You see her with him, and then suddenly she's, mortar and pestle, making something squishy. So things didn't go well for baby there. Or in Alien vs. Predator Requiem, there's a like predalien, and it attacks this like pregnant lady in a hospital, and it like injects a bunch of eggs down her throat. So it's like, make me babies in your little baby basket, and I remember being quite horrified with that. But I'd say, with the zombies in general, it's always been a popular genre. I enjoy zombie movies just fine. Army of the Dead, Day of the Dead, all of the Romero stuff, and then just, generic zombies. It's just kind of fun. It's neat when they do different things with them. Like in Return of the Living Dead, I liked how the zombies were like straight, bodies in a graveyard that like, reanimated. That was the start of it. Not just people getting infected and then turning into zombies and making more zombies. That it like started with like bodies in a morgue and in a graveyard, and that the zombies could like talk. They still retained like something. There's like the zombie head where they stab it with a screwdriver, and it's like, get that out of my head, that sort of thing. But what else? I don't know. It feels like by the time we reached like Zombie Land, that zombie movies had kind of jumped the shark. They're everywhere, and I think people are kind of tired of them now. I don't hear as much about like the Walking Dead spin-offs as you did when the main show was kind of going. I felt like I was hearing about that all the time, but not so many zombie movies now. More so, at least in the horror world, it's mostly possession, demons, or like home invasion, like the strangers and that sort of thing. Which to me, that was always the more frightening for me. I'm more worried about a group of just weirdos breaking into my house and not being able to stop them. That sort of thing. That gets in my head more than zombies or monsters or even like ghosts and goblins. But it's a wide and varied genre, so it's nice that there's a whole lot that people can enjoy or get spooked by. I just finished watching the Alien Earth series, and that one was it played well as almost like a scary movie. Loved the soundtrack. Oh, love the soundtrack. So many good songs. When the second episode ended with Tool, Stinkfist, I'm just like, yep, this is great. I'm gonna watch this show no matter what. And it didn't disappoint. I enjoyed it. It's funny because after watching all the aliens and all the spin-offs and Romuluses and Prometheuses and all that, I think the real thing that we learn is don't trust synthetics. Them robots are naughty. I tell you what. And it's like I don't. It seems in every movie those guys are sure the aliens are bad, but we all know they're bad. It's the little white bloods that are hanging out with us that are making letting things go wrong so they can observe and oh, interesting. But that Oliphant guy in Alien Earth did a great job. Loved him. Heck, all of them. It was just good stuff all around. But happy to draw Zombaby here. Really enjoyed him. I'd love to draw more things that you guys comment. So comment away. Let me know what you'd like me to doodle, or any horror movies that you enjoyed that would be fun to talk about, or I can give them a gander if I haven't seen them and give my thoughts, that sort of stuff. Otherwise, that about wraps this guy up. Just doing a little cleanup. There's my signature, and bada bing, bada boom. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'm going to try and do some more spooky themed things for October, and we'll just keep it rolling right along. So thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, do a dance, and we'll see ya.